very, very warm welcome to all of you who are in and all those who are coming in as well. The topic today is, of course, meeting the RCICs, the Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultants from different provinces to understand the various permanent residency pathways across Canada for international students. So we have a lot of panelists today, and I will just start with the introductions. A quick introduction to who's Canam. We at Canam have been pioneers in career counseling for students headed to Canada for the past 27 years. Canam has been very special to Canada and a leader in promoting Canadian education. We have a large network of offices in 30+ locations across India and are members of major accrediting bodies throughout the international education sector worldwide. Our career counselors are highly experienced with decades of experience in recruitment processes, programs, admissions, and compliance. At Canam, we value a strong working relationship with our university partners, which is a huge benefit to our students. Anurag Sandhu, CEO of Canam, is an RCIC, that is Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultant, and thus licensed by the Government of Canada to provide guidance on study permits and immigration advice. We connect with over 2.5 lakh students and professionals each year to apply to university and college admissions around the world. Our free services include live interaction with delegates through webinars, visits, conclaves, office visits, admission workshops, and so on, in-person and virtual career counseling, admission services, visa guidance, getting application fee waivers where possible, providing scholarship options where possible, and interview preparation where it's needed. 97.2% of tens of thousands of students applying through Canam get accepted into their choice of programs in Canadian institutions each intake. Now, we would like you to be one of our success stories as well. So how do we get it right at Canam? One, high quality personalized counseling by highly experienced counselors, facilitating direct communication with universities and colleges through our various activities, events, workshops, conclaves, webinars, artificial intelligence-driven smart search technology for custom match of profile, eligibility, and field of interest developed over inputs from 10 million man-hours of counseling over 27 years. And perfected ISO-accredited application processing systems for over 27 years. And now for the conclave. The topic for today, for this session, is Meet the RCICs, Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultants, updates and different permanent residency pathways across Canada for international students after study. So now over to our panelists for today in alphabetical order. Aaron Cow, Manager of Operations and Business Development, International Recruitment Center, Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultant from University of New Brunswick. As a former international student, UNB alumnus, Aaron Cow is working at the International Recruitment Center of the University of New Brunswick as a Manager of Operations and Business Development. Aaron holds an MBA degree from UNB and is also an RCIC with almost a decade of experience in the Canadian immigration field. Happy to have you with us, Aaron. Angie Price, RCIA, Regulated International Student Immigration Advisor at North Island College. Angie, RCIA, Manager of International Student Services. She has worked at North Island College, British Columbia, Canada for the past 17 years in the Office of Global Engagement. She oversees student services functions relating to international students, including advising, admissions, and finance. She has held the RCIA designation since the inaugural entry to the practice exam in 2015. Thank you for being here today, Angie. Our next panelist is Colleen from Bow Valley College, Calgary. Colleen V is from Bow Valley College. She's an immigration specialist in international learner development at Bow Valley College and an RCIC, Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultant. She has an extensive experience in international education over a decade, including immigration consultation, international student advising, and recruiting. She's completed her BBA, Bachelor of Business Administration, and postgraduate diploma in immigration practitioner. Currently, she's pursuing her Master of Science at SOAS, University of London. Great to have you with us, Colleen. Our next participant is Dina Wang, Acting Director, International Recruitment and Admissions from University of Windsor. As a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, Dina has helped thousands of University of Windsor international students with their study permit, work permit, and immigration issues. As an experienced international educator, Dina aims at helping international students achieve their personal, academic, and professional goals in Canada. Thank you for being with us today, Dina. Our next panelist, Samina Tempal, Associate Director, International Student Recruitment and Business Development at York University School of Continuing Studies, North York. Passionate about international education and assisting students in achieving their education goals, Samina Tempal has been in the international education sector for more than a decade in senior management roles in the college and university sector. Her expertise is in advising and counseling students about program choice and career pathways in Canada and globally. Now, this experience and her understanding of immigration as an RCIC enables her to provide guidance to students with invaluable insight. Thank you for being with us today, Samina. Our next participant is Saurabh Vashisht, RCIC, Manager International Student Recruitment and Student Support from Northwest College, Edmonton. Saurabh has been working in the field of international education for the last 12 years. In his current role, he oversees and manages the International Student Recruitment Team, Partner Management, and International Student Services and Engagement Team. Saurabh has an exceptional performance record in implementing innovative international student recruitment strategies and executes increasingly responsible market research for Northwest to enhance global institutional partnerships. He says, "I'm passionate about the international recruitment and advising field, so I can fulfill the dreams of international students who want to come to Canada to attain world-class education. It's personally rewarding." Thank you for being with us today, Saurabh. Our next participant is Quilling from Dalhousie University. He's an international student advisor. Quilling is an international student advisor and RCIC at Dalhousie University's International Center. He has 20 years of experience working for government and post-secondary institutions in Canada. His experience covers foreign credential evaluation, teacher certification, admissions, recruitment, as well as immigration consulting. Quilling obtained his M.Ed degree from University of Alberta and was employed by the government of Alberta before joining Dalhousie University. Great to have you with us, Quilling. And with that, we now have our panel discussion. Don't forget to type in your question and WhatsApp number with the city that you're located in to chat admin in the chat box. If your question is absolutely unique and general, we'll pick it up for one of the panelists to answer. If your query is specific to your case or profile, an expert Canam counselor closest to your location will contact you in the next 2 working days. And thank you for joining in today. Now over to the panel. Okay. Hello, panelists. So are we all ready for the questions? Okay. So, all right. So what is express entry is what every Canada-bound student asks. I'll quickly give you a basic introduction. Express entry is the application management system for 3 Canadian immigration programs: the Canadian Experience Class, the Federal Skilled Worker Program, and the Federal Skilled Trades Program. Provincial nominee program candidates in the express entry pool have already qualified for one of these programs. Now, express entry uses a points-based system, the comprehensive ranking system, CRS, to rank candidates' profiles. The top scoring candidates receive an invitation to apply, the ITA, and then they can apply for permanent residency. Canada will increase the number of candidates invited through express entry programs based on the immigration levels plan for 2023-2025, which was released last November. Now, in total, Canada is targeting 5 lakh new immigrants per year by 2025, including refugees, parents, asylum seekers, and so on. Out of these, only through express entry, 82,880 immigrants will be admitted to Canada as permanent residents in 2023. This will increase to 1,09,020 in 2024 and 1,14,000 in 2025. Now, these higher targets emphasize the importance Canada places on economic immigration in the face of an ongoing labor shortage. Immigration accounts for as much as 90% of labor force growth in Canada and approximately 75% of population growth. Now, with that background, I now move on to the panelists for the Q&A session. And do keep the questions coming in into the chat admin in the chat box along with your WhatsApp number. My first question is to Angie Price. Angie, I have two questions. What is the role of a RCIA and RCIC? And is it mandatory for Canadian public institutions to have them on campus for international student support? Since the Canadian government mandates that any guidance on visa or immigration-related matters should be advised by licensed immigration consultants, does the study permit application guidance fall under this ambit? Is it an advantage to a student if his agent in India is an RCIC too? Second question, in BC, what is the most popular stream that
Angie has not joined till now? If we can just move to the next question.
Oh, okay. You should have told me that. Oh, all right. Okay, fine. My next question is to Aaron. Aaron from New Brunswick. Aaron, many Indian students who are looking for a great return on investment choose to study the MBA and bachelor's degrees at UNB. They're also aware that the Atlantic Canada region offers some great permanent residence opportunities for students who have studied at public institutions there. The Atlantic Immigration Program is now a permanent program that officially opened on 1st Jan 2022 after being a successful pilot for a few years. As an RCIC, please tell us how students after their study can successfully build themselves a vibrant and prosperous future to drive the economic growth of the Atlantic Canada region. As an international student, having studied at least 2 years from a public post-secondary institution in one of the 4 Atlantic provinces, is any work experience required to qualify under this category? And lastly, is this route easier than through the Canadian Experience Class or Federal Skilled Worker category?
Good morning, Ms. Ganga. So nice to see you again, and such a pleasure to be invited for this year's Canam Conclave. Again, my name is Aaron Cao. I'm working for the University of New Brunswick. I'm also a RCIC, stands for Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultant. I've been thinking about those questions and think about where should I start, because it's such a big topic, immigration. So I think I may just start with my own story. A few years ago, I came to Canada as an international student. And then I was looking for, different options, go to Australia, go to UK, go to United States. And then finally, I choose Canada because I think Canada is the best choice because the immigration policy first, and then the very high quality of education, and also the friendly and supporting, welcoming communities here around here. So I think that's probably one of the best, choices and the wisest choices in my entire life. And I came to UNB and I took my Master of Business Administration MBA program. And then I graduated a couple years later. And then back then, there was so many choices for immigration program for international graduates. And I used the New Brunswick provincial nominee program and applied an application with support from my employer. And then a few months later, I got my PR status. So I would say the process was very smooth. And I think you guys are lucky right now because there's so many different immigration programs could support international students. So if you think about immigration to Canada after study, I think definitely is a great time. Also, I want to touch a bit, I want to let you know that this is definitely the best time during my professional career in Canada. If you follow the news, you may know, there's a huge labor shortage in Canada. As you may know, the Canadian immigration system and part of the Canadian immigration system is based on economic growth. And basically, they are looking for talented people, well-educated people, just like you, to come to Canada, continue the study, and then graduate with a good knowledge and language, and then be ready to go to the employment market. And then the government will support you by different immigration programs and give you the permanent resident status. Here are some little tips from my own experience. So if you come to Canada for education, please keep in mind, if you think about immigration, you should be ready from day one once you start here. Use as much as resources you can offered by the institution. For example, the co-op program. and employment services, resume writing, mock interviews, etc. And also all kinds of other employment support, for example, on-campus job fair, all the faculty job opportunities, and then etc. And then you can also go to the local community. As I mentioned, from my experience, and Canada is such a welcoming country, and also the local communities are very supportive and they're very welcoming. And in a matter of fact, there are so many agencies or organizations in the local community could support you, could help you, to have the program to support and help you to go through the entire study journey, as well as the immigration process. And then particularly in New Brunswick, I believe, after you study, after you have co-op, for example, have all the experience and have the proper support from institutions, from the local community, and you are pretty much, job ready. Once you get a job, you work for a while, and then I think the immigration process just becomes a natural process. And then back to the question, is it easier? I won't say immigration is an easy process, because it's not. Immigration could be very long and very complicated, but don't take me wrong. I think, we're talking a lot about backlog, slow processing time last year. I agree with you. It's always something could be improved, but look at the number. So for the year of 2022, Canada approved 430,000 permanent residents. That's a massive, massive number. Imagine how many applications are there, because those are approved permanent residents, plus study perm application, plus all the other categories, all the humanitarian support for Afghanistan and Ukraine, just name a few. I think the government is doing a good job, in my opinion. All right, so speaking of the immigration programs in this region, in Atlantic or in New Brunswick, I think most of the program job offers to you is the key for the programs, as well as work experience, either in Canada or outside Canada, depending on different programs you're choosing, with the only exception of the Atlantic immigration program. By the way, the program was very successful in the past 5 years. So that's why the AIPP, the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Project, becomes a permanent program, and they rename it as Atlantic Immigration Program. So I think it's very good, and it's just another avenue for international graduate to get their permanent resident status. And for international graduates from this region, from the Atlantic, four Atlantic provinces, you do not necessarily need work experience. As soon as you have a job offer from a designated employer, you can start your PR application right away. So I think that's really the advantage of this program, and could shorten the overall application processing time. Did I answer all the questions?
Yes, you did, Aaron. Thank you so much. So that's great. No,
perfect.
Huling, my next question is to you. Dalhousie University is a U15 university offering the largest variety of courses in Atlantic Canada. The Atlantic Immigration Program helps employers hire qualified candidates for jobs that they haven't been able to fill locally. How successfully have graduates from Dalhousie University received job offers from the designated employers and immigrated to Atlantic Canada through this program in the last couple of years? As an RCIC at the university, how do you provide assistance?
Thank you for the question. Good morning. Hello from Halifax. To you, Ganga, for inviting us to participate in the session, to all the panelists and all the participants as well. As Aaron just indicated, the Atlantic Immigration Program, first pilot and then become a permanent program, has been very successful. Our graduates for the past 2 years, I have to say, they choose this program as their top priority, simply because international graduates do not require 1 year of work experience to apply for PR, as long as they meet the other conditions. So while I don't have the exact number of how many Dalhousie students have participated in the program, from my advising sessions with students, it seems to me their first choice is the Atlantic Immigration Program. And then there will be the other program, the nominee program through Express Entry and other program as well. So as an RCIC working at the International Center, so my job is to provide students with information and options after graduation about which program they should choose. We don't do in-depth advising. We don't really represent students. We don't really review the application, but we do invite the federal and provincial speakers to talk to our students. And then we provide them with the guidance, with the general direction of which options they should be choosing. So Atlantic program is a good program. If you are thinking about post-graduation work permit, coming to Canada as a potential future permanent resident, I would say come to the East Coast, whether it's UNB, Dalhousie, or other universities. We will welcome you, the province will welcome you, and then we have the good programs for you. I'll hand it back to you, Ganga. I hope I answered the questions.
Yeah, would you like to tell them something more about how you provide assistance?
Well, I provide, based on my knowledge, right, as an RCIC, I basically, I try to guide the students on where to find resources. If you have the RCS, you have IRCC website, and you have the program delivery instructions and updates, and you have the provincial immigration website and resources. As I mentioned earlier, we invite speakers to talk to our students. So we try to educate our students about how to get information, how to stay on top of the updates and the trends and the new programs, and how to get ready for potential new program that may come up, along the way. We tell them, you have to be studying full time. You have to be making sure your study permit remains valid all the time, making sure you don't leave any gaps in your studies. So you first of all, you have to be eligible for the post-graduation work permit. Yeah, that's very critical. So that's my job on the day in, day out basis. So try to educate students, try to equip them with the skills and knowledge and information, and try to connect them with the individuals, including employers, to prepare for their future in Canada. Looking not just at Dalhousie, but beyond their studies and beyond graduation, and then look at their future in Canada.
Yeah, thank you so
you.
much. My next question is to Colleen. Colleen, what are the main merits of studying in Alberta to obtain permanent residency? What are the significant differences of Alberta Provincial Nominee Program with the Federal Immigration Program? And also, how do Bow Valley College programs help towards gaining the eligible work experience that is needed to qualify for PR?
Hello, everyone. Good morning in Canada and good evening, India. Nice to meet you virtually here. My name is Colleen. I'm immigration specialist at Bow Valley College here and providing immigration information to learners and providing all the necessary services for our students. So speaking about what are the main merits of studying in Alberta to obtain PR. So I'm going to touch base on very practical issues and matters. So regarding particularly, we are talking about PR, how to obtain PR as an international student in Canada. So Alberta is considered one of the most economically powerful province in Canada and has a strong and diverse economy. Living and studying in Alberta as an international student has a various merits. Talking about merit of studying and living here is, most of all, I would say employment and wage. The main key factor to obtain a PR is, as we know, successful employment. Alberta has one of the lowest unemployment rate in the country and high median income. In terms of a job opportunity, Alberta has a diverse range of industry that are in high demand, such as healthcare, finance, and technology. Of course, heart of energy in Canada. The province has a relatively low unemployment rate, which means that there are many job opportunities available for those who are willing to get a job and apply for PR. Another merit is our province nominee program. Alberta Provincial Nominee Program, known as AAIP, has a very international student-friendly immigration program. It has a low requirement for post-graduation work permit holder. For example, AAIP, AOS, Alberta Opportunity Stream, the post-graduation work permit category, accept an applicant with low skilled level work experience in Alberta. While applicant with only skilled level work experience can apply for federal immigration program, AAIP AOS can still support an international graduate who has a low skilled level work experience in Alberta. Also, I can mention financial benefit as well. Not direct merit, but still significant merit to live and study in Alberta, because international students need to manage their limited budget. Alberta does not have a provincial tax. Low rental and housing expense, one of the lowest housing rental price from major cities, particularly Calgary, major cities in Canada. In brief, strong employment, high wage, international student-friendly immigration program, and low living cost. Those are strong merits of living and studying in Alberta to obtain a PR. And speaking of significant differences of Alberta Provincial Nominee Program with Federal Immigration Program, what are the main differences? AAIP, Alberta Provincial Nominee Program, I can only talk about AOS, Alberta Opportunity Stream, since we have a very limited time today. AOS, this is a primary route for international students in Alberta to obtain a PR. This stream does not require skilled level work experience and job offer. This is a crucial difference from the federal immigration program. For example, business diploma program graduate who have been working at a bank as a teller at the front. This job, official occupation by NOC, National Occupation Code, is a financial customer services representative, tier 4, which does not fall into skilled level occupation, but this applicant does not qualify for federal immigration program, CC, but qualify for AAIP AOS stream. Another difference is AOS require only 6 months of work experience in Alberta, but federal immigration programs such as CC requires 1 year work experience. A student who complete only 1 year certificate program receive maximum 1 year post-graduation work permit. This means a student with 1 year education in Canada, probably they will face challenge to manage their time to apply for PR under federal immigration program, but still those people have a PR opportunity with our AAIP AOS because AOS only requires 6 months of work experience. For the last, federal immigration system, Express Entry is a comprehensive ranking system. Whoever get higher score, they get an invitation to apply for PR first. There is no guarantees to get an invitation within certain period of time. But international students, they have to manage everything within maximum three years while they are holding the post-graduation work permit. Whereas AOS does not have a score system. First qualifies, first get nominated. So if a nomination quota from current year is filled up, then application goes forward, move forward to the next year. So AAIP, AOS allow peer opportunity to those who cannot meet requirement from federal immigration program. And how Bow Valley College, we support our learner who need work experience to qualify for PR. Bow Valley College offers 1 year and 2 year programs to international learners. All of our programs are eligible for a post-graduation work permit. Also, students who complete one of those programs meet education requirement for either federal immigration program or provincial immigration program. Bow Valley College offers WIL, Work Integrated Learning, which is seen as a way for students to gain hands-on experience and develop their professional skills while still in school. It also provides students with opportunity to network and make industry connection that can be beneficial as they enter the workforce. We offer WIL opportunities through co-op practicum, internship, apprenticeship, and others. More than half of our programs currently are providing WIL as a part of their studies. This is mandatory. And by 2024, September, all of our programs will be ready to offer mandatory WIL so that international students can have easy and comfort access to employment after their graduation. Additionally, Bow Valley College has a career services team that provides support to students and graduates in finding employment opportunity and navigating the Canadian job market. This can be particularly beneficial for international students who may not have an existing network in Canada. Our career services is lifetime services for current students and alumni. And we have deeply recognized that obtaining PR in Canada is the primary goal of their studies in Canada. So international students come to Canada for better future and better job. They want better salary, low living cost while they study and change their status to PR. For the last, I just want to share my story. I am an alumni of Bow Valley College, very first international learner. And also I obtained my PRs through Alberta nominee provincial program. So I have considered many options, but luckily I was able to settle down in Alberta, Calgary, and with Bow Valley College. So Alberta and Bow Valley College, we are very welcome in all the international learners. We are ready to support all the paths to the PR. So I hope my information, my speaking really helps to those who are willing, who want to come to Canada and study and obtain PR in the future. Thank you. Did I answer all the questions?
Yes, you did. Thank you so much, Colleen. That was great. There's a lot of detailing. Thank you. My next question is to Saurabh Vashisht, RCIC from Northwest Edmonton. He's also from Alberta. Saurabh, Edmonton and Calgary are regularly ranked among top 10 lists of best cities in the world to live in. Now, many students want to study and settle in Alberta, like Colleen said. Now, Alberta is adjusting its immigration process in an attempt to make it easier for those with ties to the province to move to Canada. In fact, the province announced on 18th of January this year that they will allocate 25% of express entry nominations to potential newcomers with skills to work in high demand sectors, including technology, healthcare, agriculture, who have immediate family members such as a sibling or a parent already living in Alberta. Now, do you think this policy will help students with blood relatives living in Alberta to settle in better? What are the other factors that increase a student's chances of qualifying in Alberta Express Entry stream? An Alberta job offer, being a graduate of a Canadian post-secondary institution in Alberta, any French levels needed? And thirdly, what tips would you give students when they choose their prospective programs or institutions if their ultimate goal is to study, gain Canadian work experience, and hope to apply for PR? A lot of questions.
Okay, well, yes, a lot of questions. Yeah, thank you, Ganga, for inviting me, and hello, everybody, and greetings from Northwest College from here in Edmonton. So I'll expand on my colleague as she mentioned about Alberta. So we call here Alberta Advantage. So the Alberta Advantage is about affordable living and a high quality of life. So that's a big, I would say advantage for students who are coming to study in Alberta. As you mentioned, the two cities, Calgary and Edmonton, and probably you may be already aware that Calgary and Edmonton are ranked among the top 10 most affordable places in the world. And it's only one of the very few places in Canada which has such affordable housing. And that's very important for students. So housing affordability is, I would say, a big advantage of Alberta because right now the inflation is going up. So everything is becoming a little bit expensive. So I think that's one big factor. Also, the higher income is here as well in Alberta. So Albertans usually enjoy high weekly earnings, high family incomes as compared to other parts of Canada. Like in Alberta, there's around 1,251 weekly, and Alberta families have a highest median salaries after taxes, which is around 104,000 as compared to the national median of 66,000. And also there's very low cost of living. The taxes here in Alberta is only 5%. If you compare with the rest of Canada, it's usually 10% or above. So all these factors, and also there's a huge, I would say, positive economic outlook, which links to immigration. So most of these provincial nominee programs that Canada has in different provinces, they're trying to address the labor market shortage. So I'll probably share with you some of the facts about Alberta's economy, because I think a lot of students need to pay attention to the economy of a province when they're choosing the province, that how and what are the labor market shortage in which occupation, because that drives the immigration policy of that particular region. So just to give you an idea about Alberta, so Alberta had a rebound of its economy around 4.8% GDP growth rate in 2021, and it grew to around 5% in 2022. Again, we are projecting a GDP growth rate in 2023 as well. And there are some sectors which have seen a huge GDP growth, which means, again, in simplistic language, GDP growth means a lot of job increase in these sectors. So those sectors have been mostly healthcare, construction, energy, also hospitality and tourism, and there are what we also call here health services and community services. So there's a lot of rebound in these sectors, and which is great. But what it has created is a labor market shortage. So I'll probably share with you some numbers regarding the labor market shortage, which we are seeing here. So the Alberta has currently, and you'll be surprised to know this number, more than 100,000 jobs open in Alberta, and the companies are not able to find employees for these specific skills. And there was around 25,000 job vacancies in December alone, which a lot of the employers are not able to fill. So there's a huge labor shortage in Alberta. And right now, probably if somebody's following Canadian news, they're seeing there's a huge shortage in healthcare, there's huge shortage in construction, there's huge shortage in tourism and other sectors. So that is driving the immigration policy. And you're right, recently Alberta announced this change in Alberta Express Entry program, in which they are prioritizing the high demand occupation. So again, it's also very key to understand what are the high demand occupation, which are mainly in healthcare, tourism, construction, agriculture. And you're right, the Alberta is planning to assign 25% of their Express Entry quota toward it. So in total, Alberta nominates 6,500 people every year. That's the total limit of nomination. And out of that, I think a very rough number, around 800 of these people, 815 to be exact, will be under this quota, where people have jobs in these high demand occupation, plus they have family connection, because of course your family connection is very important when you're settling in a community. You need that extra support, which definitely your family gives. So that's definitely one of the trends that we are seeing. And also I think Alberta nominee program has many other, I would say, trends as well. So I think one of my colleagues mentioned that Alberta Opportunity Stream is there. There's also rural stream as well. So there's a lot of labor shortage in the rural areas in Alberta, which is also being addressed by that. Now I'm just linking that with the programs we offer. So again, Northwest College is a comprehensive community college. So I think students need to understand there are three kinds of post-secondary institutions in Canada. One is university, one is polytechnic, one is comprehensive community college. And all three has a different role and mandate to play. So comprehensive community colleges are mainly focused to address and train the local labor market force to fill in the labor gaps in the local community. So we intentionally match our programs with the local labor market, and that's what we do. So our programs kind of reflect what is in demand in the local market, and we offer the program. So a lot of the programs we have are in health, because yes, there's a shortage in health. That's why we have a heavy focus. A lot of our programs are focused on social sciences, because that's one of the sectors where there's a lot of jobs and labor shortage market. Technology is another sector, and Edmonton is also, very uniquely placed in artificial intelligence, machine learning, energy sector, environmental sector. So we have jobs around that as well. And then we also have a lot of jobs in business, especially in specialization in human resource, accounting, finance. And the reason we have this specialization, because there's a lot of pent-up demand in this sector, and which we are trying to address. And again, as mentioned before, we have work integrated learning, which is like again, community college education model is education plus experience. And that leads to your skills, which translates to job, which translates to immigration. So that's kind of I would say, the sequence of it. So that's the way at the college level, we train you while you're in the college, and then that leads you to the job and eventually to the immigration. So I'll probably stop here. I hope I answered your question, Ganga, and probably that gives students some insight about how to look when they're looking for immigration, is to look for economy first and then immigration.
Thank you, Saurabh. Yes, you did answer all my questions. Now, next question goes to Samina. Samina, the largest group of students from India choose to study in Ontario. Firstly, please tell us about the general options available for them under the Canadian Experience Class and Federal Skilled Worker category. And secondly, what should a student know about the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, the international student stream of the Employer Job Offer category? And thirdly, can you please stress upon the importance of studying a program that provides the necessary skills that employers and industry are looking for? Samina, on 24th, one second, sorry. On 24th January, Ontario Immigration Nominee Program, actually, they issued 620 new invitations for permanent residency PR. And the invites were sent to all expression of interest profiles with Ontario Provincial Nominee Program having a score of 82 and above under the Employer Job Offer International Student Stream. So is this good news for international students?
Right. Okay. So first of all, Ganga, thank you very much for inviting me on the panel. And I'm really happy to be part of this very esteemed panel of my colleagues. And a warm welcome to all the students as well attending the webinar. Yes, to answer your question, that is good news for international students. And what it also means is that 82 points is a bit on the higher side. So yes, you do need a certain level of criteria to have been met to be able to invite, to get the invitation to apply. So I will touch upon that when I'm speaking about the OINP program. To get to your first question first, the general options available under, so, very quickly, I'm going to give students, the participants, a little bit of difference between the CEC and the FSW. I'm assuming they know the CEC means Canadian Experience Class, FSW is Federal Skilled Worker. There are essentially three things that you want to there are three eligibility criteria. One, of course, is the language proficiency that you would need. So you need language proficiency in either of the official languages. And for FSW, you need a level of that is equivalent to level CLB 7. And for CEC, depending on your profession, the National Occupation Class classification work that you're doing, it is either CLB 7 or CLB 5. The second eligibility criteria for both these programs is the kind of work, the level and type of work you do, which is based under the which you would have to categorize under the National Occupation Classification, which comes under Tier 0, 1, 2, or 3. And this is pretty much like the same earlier NOC 0A and B had, but it's been a little bit differentiated. Immigration Canada or other Employment Canada has added a few more categories, and that's good news for all the students. And the third eligibility criteria for both these categories is the the number of years of work experience you need. The minimum you need is 1 year. For FSW, the distinction is that it has to be continuous work experience. It can be either part-time or full-time, right? And for within the past 10 years of the application. And for Canadian Experience class, it has to be 1 year. It can be non-continuous. It can be part-time or full-time, but it has to be within the past 3 years of their application. Excuse me. Education is not required, or rather is not a mandatory requirement as part of an eligibility criteria for CEC, but for FSW, you do need to have, I mean, it is a requirement that you should have a minimum of your secondary education. Both these categories do not require job offers, but if you do have a job offer if you do have a job offer as specified, you will get additional points. And obviously, you get the other additional points. So as you mentioned, for express entry programs, the higher the points on your CRS, the better the chances for you to get an invitation to apply. Because these programs are open to all the NOC tier 0, 1, 2, and 3. There's a broad categories, broad area of professions and jobs that students are eligible to apply in. This is the biggest draw across all programs. So, definitely students have a lot of chance if they're applying to this. The big advantage for a lot of students is that, even though they are applying to any of the provincial programs, they can always set up the express entry profile. So they can be eligible for both. So that's an advantage. You don't have to choose one or the either. And so that makes me come to the second question, is the OINP job, the employer job offer stream for international students. Now, this is not an express entry program. This is a expression of interest program, which means you apply directly to the province. And for this, the eligibility criteria for students who are interested is, the first obviously is that you have to have a job offer, because that's what the name states itself. The job offer needs to be permanent, it needs to be full-time, and obviously it needs to be based in Ontario. Education is required as part of this stream, and you need to have either a 2-year diploma degree, or you can have a 1-year graduate certificate. Now, the distinction here that applicants need to remember is that the admission criteria should have been a degree. So it's not degree or diploma, degree or work experience. The graduate certificate eligible for this particular stream is a degree requirement, right? And the third thing that students need to remember is that you should apply within 2 years of having completed your program. And in addition, so this is one of the most popular OINP streams, obviously, for international students, because they don't need work experience. As soon as you get the eligible job offer, you can apply straight away. This is also a points-based system, like you mentioned, students with 82 points and over were invited to apply. So things like, language fluency, the kind of wage you get, the kind of sector you are in, where your job is, where you studied, all of these things, your age, etc., all of this gives you additional points. So you need to take a look at that as well. Related to both the streams, we can now come to the very important fact is, why is a program, how do you select a program that would provide necessary skills and that the employers are looking for? I think we all recognize, as all our panelists are saying, that you need to have a job offer, or you need to have work experience, or even for the programs that have work integrated learning, obviously you need to be able to get through an interview, right, and to be given a job. So if you've not thought about the program that provides you the skills that you need, that employers are looking for, your chances of getting a job become that much harder. And so, which is why selecting a program which not only suits you, I find in my counseling that a lot of students will say, well, just give me any 2-year program, just give me any. No, any is a word you should never, ever be using, you really want to think about what your skills are, what your interests are, and then match that with what the region, that is whichever province you're planning to go to, where that is there a demand for those skills. Fortunately for Ontario, we are the most populous province. We are the heart of the economy in Canada. We have a wide range of careers that are in demand, professions that are in demand. Industry, we are a hub for various kinds of industry. That said, though, it is very important that you should choose something that reflects the skill that employers are looking, because if that doesn't happen, you're unlikely to get the job you want very quickly and at the level that you need, right? Having said that, I would also like to say that York University, in the School of Continuing Studies, we offer a range of graduate certificates which are all in high demand industries, IT, business, and media. So that's something that the students could look at. We also, like all the universities and other Canadian institutions, we offer a range of support services to students, that help them build their skills, not just technical skills, but soft skills as well, that would make them a lot more employable. A couple of things that I do want to touch upon based on my experience is that, as Saurabh pointed out, that students do need to avail of the services that the institution provides, because I find that a lot of students don't tend to do that, and that is sad, because they have all these services at their disposal. And they need to make sure that, they are networking, they are, trying to understand what are the soft skills that employers are looking for, because in addition to your program skills, soft skills is a very, very important aspect of, being getting through an interview and getting a job offer. So that is something you want to focus on. And thirdly, you should do things which are legal. I say this because, the temptation to do things which are not exactly by the book is very high for various factors. And what students don't realize that, it may give you some sort of short-term gain, but in the long term, it jeopardizes your status. And, small things can trip your permanent residency application. And you realize that, you worked, you studied, you worked, you put in all this, sweat and effort. And just because of one misstep, you jeopardize your entire dream and ambition and whatever work you put in. So that I would want to caution students is to refrain from giving into that temptation. Have I answered your questions?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. My next question is to Dina. Dina, what can college or university international graduates do to prepare for a successful PR application after graduation in Canada? There are several documents and processes that all international students should complete shortly after graduation so that they have everything they need regardless of which PR pathway they choose. For example, get VESA authentication, get their IELTS, general scores, and so on, like what others have been talking about, Samina just spoke about. So it would be great if you could elaborate on this for the students.
Definitely, Ganga. Thank you so much for having me here. And then I can see that Ganga and Canam has strategically selected different institutions from different parts of the world to talk about immigration pathways. And then my name is Dina. So hello, everyone. My name is Dina. I'm from University of Windsor. We're located also in Ontario. We're located in the southernmost part of Ontario, also a little bit the warmest part of Ontario, border with the United States. So we, as many, our panelists here talk about both through their provincial nominee programs and the express entry. As you can tell, really Canada is striving to attract more and more international students to Canada, first to study and then to work. And then eventually you become a landed immigrant and settle in Canada and make your Canada a second home. So in this process, no matter from the federal levels, there are different immigration pathways. And then at the each province level, there are different pathways. So my colleagues have shared a lot of good information about each province, including Samina talked about quite a bit about the Ontario programs. So as an international student, I would think fundamentally when you're planning to study abroad, study in Canada, one fundamental thing is no matter which institution you're choosing, it should be, first of all, a DLI institution, a designated learning institution. Because if you're thinking to immigrate to Canada, you definitely want to have taken advantage of the post-graduation work permit, as Julian, Mr. Wu mentioned earlier. And then only those DLI institutions, which we all are, those all the panelists from all those institutions, they're all DLI institutions. And then all those programs will help you to get the post-graduation work permit. However, there are definitely institutions don't qualify for that. You do need to be careful outside. So, and then choose your program, like Samina said, because based on your interest, based on your background, those are really, really important. So that's a fundamental. And then make sure when you are in Canada as a student, you want to study full-time continuously so that you can be eligible for your work permit. Try not to have any of the unauthorized breaks. I've seen situations where student may have to take a break because the medical situation or family situation, it is approved, it's understandable. But there are times that a student were distracted, like Samina said earlier. So make sure while you're students, you're preparing for your stage for immigration. And the first step is make sure you are registered full-time as a student until you graduate. And then another thing is make sure you know your immigration document expiry date. So it is very important for you to maintain a valid status for the entire time until you become a permanent resident, and then you're kind of settled. You just need to decide if you want to become a Canadian citizen or not. And then, but until then, you want to make sure your study permit is valid. Your study permit allows you to work on and off campus when you meet the requirements. And then when you graduate, you want to apply for your post-graduation work permit before your study permit expires. So those kind of things are very critical and will have a huge impact on your application for your post-graduation work permit and your PR application, because we have seen so many students, sometimes those dates are, they thought, oh, my study permit will be expired in June, but actually it will be expired in May, and then they miss a deadline to apply for their work permit. It creates a lot of problems for them. So those are three things that are fundamental for our student, regardless of the program, immigration program you're going to choose or institutions you're going to choose. And then when you're graduating, make sure you collect the documents from your institution. At University of Windsor, we call it a graduation visa letter. That is a document to show to Immigration Canada you have completed a program from a DLI, your program meet the requirements, you have studied continuously, you meet all the requirements for the post-graduation work permit. At University of Windsor, all our programs meet the requirements for 3-year work permit maximum length, so that no matter you study undergrad, master, or PhD program. So that will give you enough time to get the right work experience to apply for immigration. And in terms of the documents you want to prepare, and I think Samina addressed some of the really good points, and then like your IELTS, Ganga mentioned about that as well. And when we were a student applying for institutions, you have to take IELTS academics. And when it comes to immigration, you need to remember, you need to do IELTS general. It's different. It has to be very, very separate. And then another thing is we talk about the proof of your education in Canada, because that's critical for you to apply for immigration, give you the additional points, and also give you the work permit that you're looking for immigration to get the work experience. Since we talk about the work experience, when you're preparing your documents, if you had job work experience back home, you want to make sure you have the your employment letter, the job description, your salary to prove your job meet the NOC, the National Occupational Assessment qualifications, different categories. And then if you have a job offer in Canada, okay, that's great, because then you're going to get more points. So you want to make sure you have the right job offer, job description, salary, and all those information to come with it. And then there are sometimes some programs, depend on situation, you may also need to provide proof of fund if you don't have the jobs, depends on the situation. So those of the fund, you do need to know you want to put the money in your account in advance, so you have some history with it. Not like I borrowed from my uncle, my aunt, and then everyone put it together. So you want to make sure that's your money, you have the you can use it, you have access to it, and you can use it when you need to. And also, for example, if you have your family members here, and then make sure you provide their information. If you're married and your spouse is also working in Canada and they have work experience, that's great, because then they can potentially help you with your immigration as well. And then as Samina mentioned, in Ontario, excuse me, we also have the Ontario nominee programs, which is also great, similar to what Colleen talked about in Alberta, like different pathways. It provides some unique opportunities, and then that cannot be provided through the regular federal program. Same in Ontario. Our Ontario immigrant nominee programs has different streams for French-speaking, English-speaking, student graduated with a job offer, student graduate from master's, student graduate from PhD, or if you are your entrepreneur, there are business class as well. So in Ontario, if you're preparing the documents, it was slightly different from the federal government. For example, the higher the salary you get, the more points you're going to get. So the better, the higher the education, the more skill you have, the more experience you have, will help you to find different jobs. For example, if you're a manager, then the higher salary, you're going to definitely get more points in that system in Ontario. And then students are now not just can work on campus, off campus. Off campus, they can now work more than 20 hours. You can work full time. So those kind of earnings can also help you to get more points. So if, let's say, you're doing an undergrad in Canada, in Ontario, and then you have made more than $40,000 over the years and in the past, and then you're going to get more points. So why the government is doing that? It is avoiding the student. They want students to do real jobs instead of getting paid properly, instead of getting paid under the table, and then make sure you're working properly as well. So they're rewarding the student who are doing the right things. So that's what Ontario is doing. They want to see your tax slip. They want to see your salaries. They want to see your income. Those things will really help you to get higher points and get immigration a lot easier and faster. And also another thing is the location. If in Ontario you live and work in north of Ontario, get a lot of more extra points. And if you live outside of Toronto, you like in Windsor, you also get quite a bit of almost like a full points. But if you're right in Toronto, unfortunately, you won't get the points. So if you're a little bit short of points, you can also think about the same job I might get higher pay in Windsor or outside of Toronto, and also I get extra points. So you want to think more creatively based on your situation. So all of those things are some of the things you want to think through. And also each region, they may also have their strengths business. Like I heard some of my colleagues saying we're known for health, from constructions. And then like in Windsor, we're known for our automotive industry. So we do have those big three company, Ford, Chrysler, General Motors have the headquarters here. So a lot of our students in computer science, business, and also engineering find jobs easily. And a lot of them also work in the United States as well, because we're so close to the border. So think about what you want to study and the regional strengths where you can find the best job opportunity, and then select accordingly and select wisely based on your situation. So I think those are some of the general information. And if there are any questions about what I just mentioned, so Ganga, please let me know, or the students feel free to address the questions in the chat as our admin is suggesting.
Thank you so much, Dina. Thank you all so much. Now let me move to the questions from the audience. This one says, Canada lacks a purpose-built federal economic immigration program for international students and has few at the provincial level. One hears that the country's provincial and territorial governments, along with IRCC, are in discussion to rectify this quickly. Do you think this will happen soon, and how exactly will it help international students get closer to their objective of permanent settlement?
Can probably jump in first, Ganga, and then maybe. I would say I think mainly, again, as I mentioned before, I think the economy drives immigration. And yes, I think they are bringing a lot of, I think the first thing that has happened major at a federal level is the reclassification of the NOCs. So they have realigned a lot of NOCs or occupations in probably those, I would say now they're called tier, which were not before. Like, for example, there was a healthcare rate. I'm just taking one example. So which was considered a NOC C position before, and now it has become the part of tier 3. And there are many other occupations that have come. So I think they are happening. I know the change is not happening as fast as we like, but I think it starts with the occupations first. So immigration is realizing that there's a lot of demand in certain occupations which were in the NOC C before, which has to bring into the express entry recognized NOC, which are now from tier 0 to tier 3. So they have realigned that. We are changing those NOC structure. So I think that's the first initiation of that. And I think there are many other, I would say, high demand occupations also being identified by the federal government. And also, I think at the provincial level, there is probably equity is another piece that a lot of provincial nominee programs are looking, because a lot of the benefit of immigration has been to the urban centers, but there's a lack of equity in the rural areas. So a lot of provincial nominee programs, and at the federal level also, they have a rural program, pilot program, in which they're trying to address immigration and the labor shortage in those rural areas. So we have our Alberta rural stream, and there is also a stream in the federal level. So I would say those are the two main things I'll probably address, is the reclassification occupation and equity and distribution of immigration opportunities in both urban and rural centers.
Okay, would anyone else like to add on anything, or should I move on?
Yeah, if I may, I agree 100% with all my colleagues says. There's a huge labor shortage across the board, across the whole Canada. And also the government, both federal and provincial, identify several occupations in high demand. That's why most of the provinces have their priority to bring those, talent people in those occupations as priority. So I think, I think because of the huge labor shortage, and that's why the government realized, only the federal level, the federal policies are not good enough. And then I think that's another reason why all the provinces are taking a more active or proactive role in this immigration program or policy making process. And there's a lot of, policies are very friendly for international graduates. For example, in New Brunswick, the provincial nominee program gave the priority to New Brunswick graduates. I think that's a very, very positive thing for international students looking for education in this province. And also the kind of broaden the overall category, like Sarab just mentioned from NOC, pretty much focus on NOC 0AB. Now the extended to tier 0 to tier 4, tier 3, basically give a more opportunities for people or talent people, well-educated people who are interested in settle or work in Canada.
Okay, the next question is, some of the speakers mentioned about programs with co-ops. So does it mean that programs with co-ops are the ones which help you towards employability, and those programs which do not have co-op are not really good enough?
Yeah, Dina, go ahead.
Thank you, Aaron. I think co-op is definitely a good opportunity. I think a co-op is I'm glad the student knows about the term co-op because it's very Canadian. So co-op is a very good opportunity for our students to get hands-on experience for sure. So many of our students at different institutions, I work at different institutions, I've seen the student from institutions, they use a co-op to get the hands-on experience, the employers get to know them, and then they eventually stay in that company or use it as a stepping stone to find a better job. However, is co-op the only choice? Definitely not, because there are still internships. The reason why co-op is called co-op is related to its funding, because if the employers use the co-op programs, eventually they will get the money back, they get the tax rebate. So it's a way the government encourage employer to hire our student to give them work experience. But if you do an internship, will you get paid? Probably yes. And will you get the same kind of experience? Probably yes. And then there are different programs. They also have different form of what we call experiential learning components. So some of the program can be practicums, and they're not co-op. For example, nursing, they don't have co-ops, but everything they do is very hands-on. They go to the hospital, they work with the patients, and they do the practicums. Same with the teachers. And the teachers go to the schools, and then they do the observations, and they practice their teaching pedagogies, but they don't really call them co-op. They call their field placement. So those opportunity on campus that the institutions have also will help you to get the same kind of experience. If worst scenario, you don't have anything, which is really, really rare, and you can still find both on-campus work and off-campus work, which will eventually help you to achieve the same kind of goal, to build your network. Like Samina was saying, networking is very, very critical. You are talented, you have a lot of knowledge, you have a lot of experience. You need to get out of there and let people to know you, to appreciate you. So that's the best way. Sometimes it's a volunteer, sometimes involved in events, be active in the community, work on campus, work off campus, and then you never know where you're going to be landed at. So I'll give an example. I came to Canada as a landed immigrant, And then I decided to transfer my some of the credits from New York University to York University. So I'm alumnus from York University. And then while I was at York, I was doing my graduate assistantship. So the job was to bring a lot of those Chinese educators to different schools and high schools and colleges. So with that job, with that student job, I visited a lot of the colleges, universities, and high schools. Everywhere I went, I submitted a resume afterwards. And then I was like, follow up, thank you for meeting me. Thank you for opportunity. I love your school. And this is my information. Because I didn't really know anyone. I don't have any family. I don't have any friends, just myself. So a year later, while I was still in York, and then someone called and saying, you were at our college. We have a job. Are you interested? And then that's how I started working in the public institutions in Canada. So you never know. So my suggestion is you don't really have to just focus on co-op, but you do want to see what the institution can provide in terms of experiential learning as a whole. And also you need to make sure yourself to put the efforts in as well. Sorry, Aaron, I cut you off.
I'd like to add, sorry, go ahead, Aaron, sorry, my apologies, go ahead, please.
Yeah, sorry, no problem. Thank you, Dina, for the inspiring story. I think it's, you are 100%, you are definitely right, 100% agree. There's a lot of programs offered by the institution as part of the study program. It's in general, it's called experiential learning. Co-op definitely is one of them. So at UNB, the co-op program is optional, but highly recommended because we have all the support all across different faculties, and we offer that opportunities, and we have strong connections with the local companies and communities. So we have the resources to place students into local companies, and then by doing that, student could start with their networking process. And I always say, Canada is a huge country, but the population is not that large. And especially for local communities, we need to build up our own reputation, right? You go there, you start work there, and you are the reputation. So once you have a name there and the employer appreciate your help at the workplace, and you build up that connection. So once they have the opportunity, they will offer you. Like Dina said, a few years later, you got a job. And I had the same situation. I had an interview with one of the local companies, and they offered me the job, but then I turned it down gently. 5 years later, that person moved to a different company, and they found me, and they called me and saying, "Aaron, I'm changing my job. Here's the opportunity. Are you still interested in working with me?" So I said, "Oh yeah, sure." So I went there and worked with him for 3 years. So reputation, connection, definitely very important. Also, statistically, the co-op program, definitely help with your future career, with your job. So at UNB, I think co-op student got a 90% employment rate within 6 months after graduation, which is very encouraging, and which is another reason we highly recommend. It's definitely helpful. Sorry, Samina.
No, that's absolutely okay. I just wanted to add to the excellent points that both you and Dina made, that I wanted to circle back to the question that Ganga asked me, the importance of choosing a program which is skill-based, which is interest-based. So I've seen that students, tend to say, okay, well, I want to do business, but give me a co-op program. I want to do this, but give me a co-op. But I would say that, because, and as you say, Aaron, you want to build your personal brand, you want to build your personal reputation. And that normally comes from passion, that comes from interest, right? If you don't love what you're doing, that is very hard to fake. And I would say, first, really inspect what you want. What are you good at? What do you enjoy? If you enjoy being with people, don't choose a program which does not allow you to be with people just because it has a co-op. Also choose a program on the basis of a lot of other factors, because keep in mind that you do get the opportunity to work off campus, you get the opportunity to work between breaks full time, and at least this year until December, until the end of this year, you have the opportunity to work. You don't have a cap on those 20 hours. So while co-op is intern work integrated learning option is amazing, but you still want to focus on there are many more options to that. And one other last thing is that fortunately, Canada's programs are very job relevant or work relevant, industry relevant. So the program itself gives you a lot of opportunities, either through your assignments, projects, etc., to develop your skills that employers prefer. So even without a co-op, even without an internship, you'll be able to showcase those skills.
Yeah, so short, a little bit adding on to. So I would say maybe students need to know what they want to gain by choosing co-op. Like probably some of immigration program, like at the programs, students might able to use their co-op work experience as a work requirement. So they can do that if they have any purpose of PR to add work experience is good. And also whether they want to have just entry to workforce or so co-op. It doesn't need to be limited to co-op. It can be internship. It can be capstone project. So I will more likely talk about WIA, work integrated learning. It doesn't need to be limited to co-op and internship and also capstone project. So all of those hands-on work experience is really help learner to have a little bit of browsing idea into Canadian labor market and industry. So if you want to have experience in Canadian labor market industry, it's good opportunity. But if you already have all the network, everything, then well, maybe it might be wasting of your time. So please set your goal, what you want to achieve from co-op. Then you can decide whether you really want program with co-op or not. Yeah.
Different perspectives. That was amazing. Huling, would you like to add something to this, or should we move on to the next question?
I think it's been you guys covered pretty well. Yeah, I don't think I have anything further to add. Go ahead with the next question, Ganga. Yeah, thanks for asking.
All right. So I think we just have time for the last question here. It says IRCC held a surprise draw on 18th January, marking express entry draws in 2 consecutive weeks. RCC has now already invited 11,000 express entry candidates in 2023, which is the quickest start to express entry ever. But they've not provided any explanation on why there was a pause in draws from November 2022 till this draw. So is there any comments that any of you would like to make?
I would say the express entry draw is more likely that I'm only speaking for myself. So the number of draw can reflection of the labor market. They want to control the number of immigrant or uncommonly, or they are experiencing lack of workforce as well, like IRCC. So they still processing all the refugee and other applications. So they need more time to focus on express entry, but definitely 2023 IRCC have planned to raise all the numbers. So it's just a matter of a little bit of timeline. But like it's also draw is a reflection of labor market controlling by the federal government. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that was all we had time for. So coming to the conclusion, a huge round of applause to all the panelists today. This was one of the most enlightening and confidence building sessions under the Study in Canada brand. And just to add to that, immigration will remain central to Canada's economy and society. By 2025, the immigration plan will see the Canada target in total of 500,000 immigrants per year, which will be the highest in its history, to harness the skills and talents of newcomers to support its economic growth. So they need young and skilled people, and you as students, international students in Canada, should be able to contribute to their economic growth, and yours too, if you plan your career well. You've listened to all the panelists. They've given you so many suggestions. So if you really go as per that, I'm sure you should be able to plan your career very well. So also allow Team Canam to be your mentors and assist you to prepare for your student journey ahead. Our best wishes to you all. So our next session is tomorrow, 28 Jan from 11:30 onwards, Indian Standard Time. And the topic is options after class 12, degrees, pathways, diplomas, what is right for your profile. And we have 2 more sessions tomorrow. So if you really wish to know, please do register on www.canamgroup.com in case you haven't already done so, and you can receive the Zoom link for those sessions. Thank you all and have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, everyone.
Thank you for having me today. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ganga. Thank you, students.